All right, we are live. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining for today's Extra Emergency Food Stamps Clinic. My name is Gabby. I am our Community Education and Outreach Coordinator at Legal Aid. We have a handful of people that are going to be presenting today. We're going to start with Brian, and we're going to move to Lainey and Megan, who are here as well. If you're unfamiliar with how our clinics run, typically what we're going to do is we're going to go through a PowerPoint, and if at any point you have any questions about the PowerPoint or anything else, please know that you can put your questions in the Q&A box on Zoom, or if you're viewing live on Facebook, you can put it in the comment section. We are going to address all the questions that we possibly can, but do keep in mind that we can't provide any specific information about your specific situation or your individual situation, I should say. We can only provide general information in this format, but I think that Brian is probably going to go into that in a little bit more detail. But just as a heads up, that's going to be how that'll happen. But we, again, are going to address any questions on Zoom through the Q&A box or on Facebook via the comments section. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Brian, who's going to get us started.
Thank you so much, Gabby. So my name is Brian Hogan. I'm a public benefits attorney in the Greensboro office of Legal Aid of North Carolina. I'm joined here with two of my colleagues, Lainey Harris, who is an attorney also in our Greensboro office, who does work on public benefits law, and Megan Kite, an attorney at Legal Aid of North Carolina, who also runs our social work practice group. I thank you for joining us today. It's a very important topic that we're going to be talking about that is going to significantly impact the food and nutrition service benefits that you receive from the state of North Carolina, otherwise known as food stamps. So since March of 2020, all North Carolina households that receive food stamps have been receiving a second payment later in the month of additional emergency food stamps due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. These extra benefits that you have been receiving at the end of the month are called emergency allotments. Due to these emergency allotments, you have been receiving the maximum amount allowed for your household size, or possibly an extra $95 if you were already at or close to that maximum amount. On the right-hand side of this screen, I have a chart showing you what are the maximum amounts paid to households based on the household size in North Carolina for 2023. So households of one, the maximum amount that you can receive in food stamps is $281. Households of two, the maximum that you can receive is $516. So even if your regular food stamp amount is lower than those maximums, again, you have been receiving the maximum amount for your household because of the emergency. And if you are already at that maximum, you've been potentially receiving an extra $95 on top of that maximum. Here's the bad news. Due to actions taken in Congress in December of 2022, legislation was passed where these emergency food stamps will be ending after February of 2023. That means the last month that those emergency payments that you've been receiving at the end of the month are going to end. That means that starting in March of 2023, you will only receive your regular food stamp payment. There will not be a second payment later in the month. I'm going to turn it over to Lainey now to tell you more about what you can do to update DSS to possibly maximize the regular benefit amount that you will be receiving in March of 2023.
Hi, everyone. So your food stamps payment is based on a calculation that's made by your local county Department of Social Services, or DSS. And they calculate your regular food stamps payment based on a number of factors, but primarily your household size, your income, and your expenses. They reduce your payment based on your income, but your expenses can then increase your payment, but you have to verify these. So your regular food stamps benefits could be increased if you've had any of these changes since you last recertified with DSS. First, your income. If you've lost work hours or had your pay cut, the amount of food stamps that you're supposed to receive could be higher than what your regular benefit payment currently reflects, as well as your shelter. Did your rent, mortgage, homeowner's insurance, or property taxes increase since you recertified? And one important thing to remember with shelter is that these expenses need to be verified. So not enough to simply tell DSS what your rent is or your mortgage, you need to provide proof of that for them to fully process it. The next is dependent care, and this includes childcare as well as the care of a disabled adult. Legally ordered child support. If you're paying more for child support for a child who is not in your household than you were before, your food stamps regular payment could be increased. And then lastly, medical expenses. And this only applies to people in your household who are over the age of 60 or have a disability. And if they have medical costs that are over $35 a month, those medical costs can be counted as expenses that are used to calculate your food stamps payment. If you have never reported these medical expenses, or if they have changed or been new since your recertification, this is definitely something that you want to report to DSS and provide verification of.
Thank you, Lainey. So let's talk about your rights in regard to notifying DSS about these changes, which could possibly increase your food stamp allotment amount. So first off, you should know that you do not have the right to request a fair hearing solely to dispute the end of the extra food stamp payments. That was an action taken by Congress. That's legislation that the federal government has passed. You do not have the right to challenge that at a fair hearing. However, you can request a fair hearing, though, if you believe your regular monthly food stamp benefit amount was improperly calculated. So that's the regular amount that you'll be getting in March of 2023. Now, if you report changes to DSS that Lainey just discussed, and they do not act on those changes, then you may request a fair hearing to argue that they should act on those changes and that your food stamp allotment should be changed based on those changes. To request a hearing, you're going to contact your local DSS. You can request a hearing by telephone, in person, or in writing. If you need legal assistance at a hearing, you can apply for help at Legal Aid of North Carolina's free helpline by calling 1-866-219-5262. Now, before I turn it over to Megan to talk about other resources that are available for you, I want to show you our website. If you go to legalaidnc.org, you'll see a emergency banner at the top stating emergency food stamps are ending. If you click on that banner, it will take you to this webpage. Everything that we have just discussed is on this webpage, and we'll be updating this webpage over the next few weeks with additional information that may help you find resources and other information that you need to know during this time. There is also a flyer here with the same information. And if you are a community group that we work with, please feel free to distribute this flyer to the individuals that you serve in your communities. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Megan to talk about resources that may be available to you.
Thank you, Brian. So for those of you who are losing, who are no longer going to be receiving these additional payments, we know that it is likely going to be difficult to make ends meet in the same way you have been. So as a part of these clinics, we're going to try to present some information about resources that are available to you to help fill that gap. Each week, we're going to try to provide some updated resources and some updated information. So if you're able to come back, please do. So we want to start with NC 211. There are two ways to get in touch with NC 211: by dialing 211 or by visiting nc211.org. On their website, you will find a link for, it'll say food resources, and you can filter by your county and find food resources specifically in your area. There are also several food banks across the state. Feeding the Carolinas has a map that provides the name and contact information for all of the major food banks in North Carolina. We've provided that link on the screen. I won't read that to you because that is going to be quite tedious. To learn more about food and nutrition programs, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services has also compiled a food resources page. So we would encourage you to visit that. Lastly, if you have children under 5, or if you are pregnant and breastfeeding, you may be eligible for WIC. Please visit the NCDHH website at ncdhhs.gov/NCWIC to complete a referral. And we have those links included on the bottom of that page.
Thank you. And Megan, I want to highlight too that the WIC program is underutilized. And again, if you do have children under the age of 5, you are pregnant or you're breastfeeding, that you may be eligible for additional nutrition support services during this time. So please check out those links and see if you are eligible for that program, if any of those categories pertains to your situation. All right, so next, we are open for questions. If you have general questions, not specific questions where you're going to divulge information in this setting, but general questions about the end of the emergency allotments, we are happy to take those questions now. Also on this slide, I have some information about how to contact Legal Aid of North Carolina, as well as our senior legal helpline.
As a reminder, if you have any questions, you can put them in the Q&A box on Zoom or in the comments section on Facebook, guys.
We will stay on here for about another minute to see if any questions come in. And if not, we will be back next week discussing some of the same information and any changes that have occurred over the past week.
Does look like we're clear on Facebook right now. We're going to do a last call. Anybody on Zoom or Facebook, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A or chat boxes now.
All right, well, we appreciate you being here, and we will see you next week to talk more about the end of the food stamp emergency allotments in North Carolina and resources that may be available for you and how to exercise your rights during this time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.